it's that time where it's time to start seed starting, okay? And if you're like me, you used to try and put them in the windowsill and you were like, man, I'm gonna grow all these things. And you had all of your windows clogged up with seeds and they all did horribly because, let's be honest, most growing zones in the US do not get enough sunlight during winter to successfully start amazing seeds in your windowsill. So this setup is my solution to growing all of your own plant starts, and it can save you thousands. I'm not even kidding. That's not an exaggeration. Last I checked, I think my tomato starts that I saw at the big box stores were going for anywhere from $3 up to $6 for one singular tomato start. This is an entire tray of tomatoes that I sowed for probably under $5. It's gonna produce 72 tomato plants at minimum, okay? So this is the cheapest way to go, and if you take some time and invest in this setup, you can use it year after year after year. So I've used this one for probably 6 or 7 years now. I have, I think, 3 or 4 of these racks. As a full-time flower farmer, this is what I used. I didn't have a greenhouse, and I was able to cultivate about 1 acre to 2 acres of production, small-scale agricultural crop starts through this system. So I'm gonna walk you through the ins and outs of the system, what I love about it, some of the things I don't like about it, and then of course I'll link everything so you know exactly where you can get it. If you do purchase through that link, of course I get a little kickback, but I don't care about that. I just want y'all to grow amazing plant starts and have the best season ever, okay? Because you deserve it. All right, so let's get into it. First and foremost, this rack. These are just those standard utility racks. I actually got mine in a 2-pack. It is 4 foot by 2 foot, and I don't remember exactly how tall it is, but I do know, I think it came with 5 shelves, so each of these is a shelf, but you can also add in more shelves if you want. They're super simple to set up, and what I do also like is it comes apart into 2, so you could theoretically have 2 perfect smaller racks if you don't have this kind of ceiling height and space available. But they're under 8 feet, so if you have 8-foot ceilings like I do, you have plenty of space, and you even have some storage space up top if you don't want to use this as a growing rack. I am 6'2", so I can easily see all of these. If you're a little shorter, you might, you know, use half of it if you're struggling to see the plants. But I can see up to here just fine. Now, you can put so many more shelves on this too. So an ultra hack is if you just want to buy one and get a hold of some extra shelves, you could use another unit here, 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 and here. But as stands, this one has 1, 2, 3, 4 shelves. Typically, I like to do 5 shelves. And while I'm positioning my trays this way, usually in peak production, I position them this way. This is about 18 inches wide, and these trays are 10 by 20, which means I can perfectly fit 4 of these trays with ease on each shelf, depending on the size cell of your tray. These are 72 count cells. You could easily be starting 300 plants all the way up to 500, 600, 700 plants, depending on your cell count. I used to use the 280 trays. I think they're like 288. Very small trays for cut flowers. So I was able to fit literally 1,000 plant starts right on this one single shelf. So with 5 shelves, I had literally 5,000 plants on one shelf. Now this one has only got 4 because I'm growing tomatoes, I'm growing peppers. So these plants are gonna get a little bit bigger, and I want to make sure they have ample height and ample room. Next up, let's talk about the lighting system. Now, I use these LED shop lights. What I love about these LED shop lights is they actually plug into one another. So I only have to take up one plug and I can light up the entire rack. Ideally, I use 2 shop lights per rack, per shelf. But you could use up to 3 if you find that you have leggy starts. They're very cheap, and while they do put off a little bit of ambient heat, they don't put off a ton of heat, which I think is really, really important, because if you do not lift this enough, you could actually bake and burn your little plants. So they're pretty cool to touch, and you're not gonna have to worry about burned plants with this. It's plenty of lighting. Do not fall for the tricks. You don't have to buy special plant lights, okay? This will do just fine, okay? Like I said, use 2. They're 4 foot long, so they fit the shelves perfectly. So you can get a set of 10 and you will have enough to cover this entire shelving unit. So let's talk about tray sizes. So like I said, all these trays are 10 by 20, but I didn't really talk about what I like to do with these trays. So first and foremost, I like to have one of these. So these are a little bit thicker. They're gonna add some stability to your water reservoir. It makes it a lot easier to carry around your trays instead of having like really weak plastic trays. Now this right here looks kind of gross because it's been being used, is the water reservoir. So it is got no holes, and this is where I'll pour the water in, and the plants will suck the water up from this exact tray. This is the 10 by 20 that I'm talking about. And then we have our tray insert. This can be any kind of cell count. So it could be 82, it could be 79, it could be 76. There are basic cell counts. Most of these are 72 count, but I do like to use some larger ones that are in the 200 range. But they slide right into your reservoir. And you have a really, really seamless setup. You can lift this up, add all of your water right in here, and then your plants are gonna suck the water up. Additionally, the only other thing I like to use sometimes are humidity domes. So I will sometimes use a smaller, shorter humidity dome. Now, let's talk about one last little feature that I do think is pretty critical. It's this right here. So this is a heat mat. So this again is a 4 foot heat mat. So it will unroll and fit on each of these shelves perfectly. You only need probably 1 or 2 of these shelves to have a heat mat over the whole setup, because you're only going to let your plants sit on the heat while they germinate. Once they germinate, 50% of your tray is germinated, you should take it off the heat. Otherwise, you're gonna end up with a lot of issues. You could have leggy plants, you could have fungal issues, etc. So as you can see, these are off of their trays, off the heat. This one is onions, which if you've watched some of my past videos, it looked a lot better until I started hardening it off and I killed them. Accidents happen, y'all, it's okay. But as you can see, my peppers aren't really on there. I've had some wonky germination because I've been using up a really old seed. That's okay, that's to be expected. I am going to put up the heat mat shortly, and I will put this on the heat mat. These are my tomato seedlings, and they will take off. Not all of your seedlings are gonna need heat. For example, I've got some lettuce over here. That's not gonna go on a heated tray because it just doesn't like germinating at a higher temperature. It prefers the cooler ambient temperature. You do not need a heat mat like this, but you will have more success and it will germinate and grow much, much faster if you use a heat mat. And this system, these heat mats work perfectly, okay? Like I said, I believe they are 20 inches by 4 feet. So they just barely, they'll like curve on the edges just a little bit, but they work out perfectly for this setup. Super, super easy and convenient. I want to draw your attention to this. This is the lifesaver, okay? If you are only going to invest in one thing for your plants, whether you have a giant rack like this, or if you're just starting in a windowsill with one of these shop lights, invest in one of these, okay? This is a really simple timer. You can select the times that your plants will get light and when they won't get light. You plug these lights in to this little guy right here, and as I mentioned, they all connect to each other, so you only need one plug if you get the right lights. And then you end up with a huge time saving. You don't ever have to worry about if the lights turn on, when lights turn off. Your plants are going to be timed for success. And that is the biggest thing right now, okay? So in the seed starting phase, you are focusing all the energy of that little tiny seed. The only things you are supposed to be giving it at that stage are light and water, okay? Those are the two things they really need from you, light and water, okay? Obviously, they need like the air, blah, 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 but like the things that you're actively bringing are light and water. So if you can keep that lighting really consistent and really on time, really on point, you're gonna see a lot better results with your plants. This is like $5. I don't know, it's super dirt cheap, way worth it. Get one, okay? I think they come in a 2-pack. Get 2, all right? One for this plant setup and then one for your other plant setup. Now that always brings me to this other point. A lot of people ask me what type of seed start mix that I use. I can link a video where I create my own seed start mix right down below. But you can absolutely purchase your own seed starting mix, whatever you would like to do. I think the biggest thing, and do as I say, not as I do, is what you want to do with your seed start mix is you don't want seed start mix that has big chunks like this, okay? I've got those in my tomatoes, and that is not good, okay? You want to sift your seed starting mix. You don't want these big chunks that could inhibit seed growth. If they're sitting on top of it, they're gonna struggle to root into it. If they're sitting under it, they're gonna struggle to shoot up out of it. So if you want to start really good seedlings, consider investing in good seed start mix, but you can absolutely make it yourself dirt cheap, and I will link a video right below. The key though is sifting it. And one of my all-time favorite things actually is that these racks actually come built with caster wheels. So I've taken them off because I can't get this made through the doorway. And I usually keep these in my garage through the winter months and through the off season. So these have been amazing though, because when I have the casters on, I can roll this in and out of the garage for my hardening off and hardening on. So I have a warm area in the garage that I keep nice and toasty, so I can roll it in and out of the garage as I harden off my plants. Obviously, I'm not growing these at the same scale as I used to be because I was in full scale production as a cut flower farm. So I don't need to do that anymore. I'm growing such a small amount. But when I was growing a lot, so if you're a small farm looking to invest in a setup, make sure and get casters because you're going to love the ease of just literally pushing your cart in, pushing your cart out as you go through the hardening off process. And yeah, so the setup was relatively inexpensive when I first set this rack up. Like I said, it's been 6 years or more. I can't even remember when I bought all of these things, including these trays, which I have been using year after year. So naturally, I don't exactly remember how much it cost, but I think overall, even in today's rate, where things are a little bit more expensive, obviously, than they were 6 years ago, and probably will be more expensive in the next 6 years, I still think it's gonna be a great value for the investment you put in because this is easily going to last you 6 years. I'm expecting mine to last me 6 more years, maybe 10 more years. I doubt this rack is ever going to not be able to be used as a seed starting rack, okay? I've probably got 20 years. It's probably gonna outwork and outlive me, okay? So I think it's a great investment. You might have to replace some of these shop lights every now and again because they do tend to go out, but overall, it's a really affordable setup to grow thousands and thousands of your own starter plants. So let me know in the comments if you like this setup, and I'll link all the products below just in case you want to get some too. And happy seed starting. Let me know what you're getting started, and please let me know if you decide to go with this setup.